Hello, hello. Welcome to Maximus Colin Radio Show. Is this episode 60? Amazing. Can't believe we've done 60 of these episodes. Welcome to everyone who's joining us on Instagram Live, Twitter Spaces, and Zoom. We're actually scheduled a couple folks who wanted to call in. So if you're interested in speaking up, please raise your hand or chime in, and we'll take your questions. So looks like we got someone queued up already. We're gonna admit them and go from there. Hey there. Can you hear me? Hi there. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can hear you now. Hi there. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for joining me today.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you. Tell me a little bit about what's on your mind.
So not much, just so the past year, my testosterone levels have been pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
not like they used to be. I used to be really active, a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was in really good shape. But the past year, well, a lot going on in life,
Sure.
just became a lot slower. My testosterone level feels a lot weaker.
Right.
I don't have the energy or the motive to work out as much, or even like sexual performance is
Right.
not the same. So you know that's why I took a look and subscribed to the your program.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we're super happy to have you, and obviously we can help you with all of those things. So maybe it's useful to get a little background, and then we can kind of hone in on what's going on, and I can provide you with some personalized recommendations. So maybe first to start out with, how old are you?
25.
Okay, so you're a young guy. So yeah, you certainly shouldn't be feeling that way. You're definitely in the prime of your life. So what do you think has been going on in the last year? Obviously, I think a lot of people have been not feeling their best due to COVID. But have there been any particular changes that you used to feel good and now you no longer don't? And do you have any attributions for why some of the way that you feel or perform has been going down?
I used to have an idea, or I used to think this, it's this or it's this,
Mm-hmm.
but I have no idea why it's gone down.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, have you? Has there been any changes in terms of your behaviors? Like, did you used to work out? You're not working out anymore. You slept really well. Now you're not getting enough sleep. Is there a lot of new stress in your life that wasn't there before? Are you feeling depressed and your mood was fine? Any of that stuff going on?
no, nothing like that.
Okay. And then prior to last year, how did you feel?
Just fine.
Okay. So it seems to be kind of a drastic change. It sounds like you kind of haven't figured it out or pinpointed it in terms of the whys. But why don't we just actually go through that and we can kind of maybe identify some potential factors that may be going on. So you mentioned you're 25. What's your height and weight?
5'10", and I'm really overweight right now, just
Hmm.
because I really can't push myself to do anything. I just don't have the like. I might start something, 30 minutes into it. I just want to leave. Like
Hmm.
I have like uh, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I weigh 250.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of guys in our program around kind of your weight range. Obviously, at 5'10", 250, your BMI is about 36, which is in the obese range. So, I mean, that's obviously, a big factor in terms of how you're feeling. Now, it may be because you're so young that, quite frankly, you got away with it, especially when I think people are young. They can certainly do that. You see that, for instance, in like professional athletes. Like a lot of professional football players are even bigger than you are, but they're quite healthy. What happens though, obviously, over time is the wear and tear of obviously on their joints, but also just like the overall effects on their health accumulate over time. There's really no such thing as healthy obesity. It's kind of a misnomer because there are these big professional athletes and because they're in their early 20s, they look like they can get away with it being 300-pound offensive linemen, but they don't have long-term health really positive outcomes until they really lose the weight and kind of slim down over time. Um, so have you put on any weight in the last year in particular, or has it been stable?
No, it's just in the last year. So I used to be really fit, at a point in time,
Yeah.
and where I can gain weight, and I was gaining a lot of muscle weight too. I reached so like close to 250, or like 20, 30 pounds less, 20 pounds less, but I was more muscle. I had all
Yeah.
muscle, less body fat.
It makes sense. So
That was
you
once.
were like
That was once
220,
upon a time.
230 last year?
Not last year, maybe 2 years ago, but that was a point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my body is already, learned this weight, or
Right.
so sometimes I don't recognize it till,
Yes.
uh, I just till I slow down.
I feel you. Well, certainly I think that's a high probability of one of the main factors that may be contributing to low testosterone or at least some symptoms associated with it. You may be a guy that's just like feels more comfortable at a higher weight, and especially if you carry a lot of muscle, you could be fine even at like 200 plus. Probably not that much more than that at your height. I would say like for a guy who's 5'10", like 200 would actually probably be the max, even if you're super super muscular. Um, so yeah, it sounds like you definitely got some room for improvement there. Now, weight is contrary to popular notion, really not about exercise. Going to the gym to try to lose weight is actually quite ineffective. The research is really clear that gaining weight and losing weight is really about nutrition. Now, it's not to say that exercise is not important. It absolutely is. It's beneficial for a lot of reasons, including your mood and especially for keeping the weight off. Like once you achieve your ideal weight, like what do you think that ideal weight is for you? What would you be most happy at?
Anywhere between 200 and 210.
Yeah. So I think that's a great target to shoot for. Um, so I think we should try to work together actually as part of the program to try to get you to that weight. But it's really going to be about diet. Once you're at 200 to 210, then the exercise becomes really important in terms of keeping it off. Because the research really clearly shows that people who exercise are better able to maintain that weight because your whole metabolism sort of needs to keep the calories needs to burn calories a little bit more. So tell me a little bit about your diet. Like walk me through what's like your average breakfast, lunch, and dinner these days.
So breakfast. Sometimes I skip breakfast, but
Mm,
sometimes when I do, when I'm in the like I my nutrition is really bad because I just
yeah.
eat when I feel like it.
Right.
I might eat once a day. I might eat twice a day. I might eat three times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a bagel, I might eat a bagel. Um, I drink coffee a lot. I
Yeah.
think coffee is really what got me, bad. Caffeine. Too much caffeine
Yeah.
is kind of just it kind of puts you out of place sometimes. Well, for me,
For sure.
uh, yeah. So eggs, oats, uh, like cornmeal, cereal. I kind of stick um,
Okay, so it
with
sounds like kind
basic
of
things.
simple, high carb foods for the most part. Are you cooking your? How much are you cooking yourself versus eating out?
That varies at times. So sometimes when I get caught up with things with work or whatever,
Yeah,
I might just pick something out from outside.
yeah,
Uh, Not too worried about the calories, how many calories it has,
yeah.
but just something just to you know get me up and running.
Sure.
So maybe some orange juice and a bagel.
Okay, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that's why I was saying high carb because like orange juice and a bagel in particular are really good examples of like really actually like unhealthy, relatively speaking, foods. Bagels are super starchy, right? There's like huge amount, probably 50 plus grams of complex carbohydrates, and then orange juice is one of the most interesting foods. I think people like the Tropicana, whoever, is like convinced people it's a health food, but it's honestly not that much healthier than Coca Cola. It's a ton of sugar. They usually strip it of all the fiber and pulp. And so it just negatively impacts your blood sugar. So if you especially have both of those together, glass of orange juice, like 35 grams of sugar, bagel, 50 plus grams of carbs, you're almost having like 85, maybe even 100 plus grams of carbohydrates in one sitting, which is probably more than enough for 2 days worth. So there's definitely, I think, some room for improvement there. So, last question on the new, and then we can dig a little bit further. How many cups of coffee are you having a day?
Maybe 1 cup a day,
Okay, that's not too
or
bad.
or not every day, but maybe out of 5 or 6 days, 3, 4.
Why do you think it's negatively affecting you then? Because that's not a huge amount.
Well, for me, I don't. I'm not a big coffee drinker,
Yeah,
but I do that. I've done that for many years
right.
now. So, um, and I feel like if I don't work out enough, that's that might be the reason.
Okay,
So if I do consume that much caffeine and but I work out, then I'm perfectly fine. But if I'm, I work from home, so
Yeah,
sometimes I think that can get ahead of me.
for sure. So, all right, let's start kind of simple. How motivated are you to make any changes to your diet? Because I can tell you all the best things in the world, but if you're not down to try something new, then there's no point.
Yeah, I'm totally for it. So I'm 10 out of 10.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. So here's what I'd say. Let's start small. Let's start simple because I really believe the best diet is the one that you're willing to do and that you're able to sustain forever, right? Because putting on some crash diet where you starve yourself, there's no point of that. You're going to lose the weight, you're going to gain it right back, and you're also going to be miserable the whole time. So I want you to be happy, I want you to be healthy, and I want you to do something where you don't feel like it's punishment, right? Because I think that's never going to set you up for long-term success. So let's start like building block by building block. The first thing that you said that really stood out to me that I think is really important is you don't eat consistently, right? You said I have maybe one meal, so maybe two meals. I skip breakfast, sometimes I don't. So that really throws off your body's rhythms, including your circadian rhythm, which actually uses the times that you're eating to almost like set its clock. So I think if you think about it, your body's clock is confused right now. It doesn't know, you know, when to kind of turn on, when to turn off, because your schedule's all over the place. So here's what I would suggest. The most important thing that you can do before you do anything else is just introduce some regularity and rhythm back into your schedule. So what I would suggest is let's get back to eating breakfast consistently. I know intermittent fasting is a kind of a popular thing, but I actually think it's overrated. Nutrient quality is more important than timing. It's more important what you eat than when you eat. When you're really advanced, you can get into some of the crazy fasting stuff. But I think for keeping it simple and also for hormone optimization, which we have a different sort of focus here at the company, um, it's about consistent meals. So my question to you is, I know you got a lot going on. It sounds like you work. What is like, what's a breakfast that you think you could make? Can't be bagels and orange juice, but that you realistically can make and you're willing to do every morning.
Like oatmeal.
Okay, oatmeal's not bad. It's not the best from a carbohydrate perspective, but I would say, well, here's my question before we come up with specific. Are you willing to cook, or do you want something where you don't have to cook at all?
Both. So I'm willing to cook. It's not. I'm not lazy like that.
Yeah,
But
I feel you. Well, yeah, it's. I think it's not about laziness. I think it's just about like some people are running out the door in the morning. They don't have time. So here's what I would suggest for a really simple breakfast. So if you are willing to cook, just stick with eggs. You did mention eggs earlier. You can make it really simple. If you don't want to cook, you can obviously just have hard boiled eggs. You've already cooked them. Just have them ready to go in the morning. Or obviously, you can just crack a couple eggs, do a really quick scramble in the morning, have a little bit of cheese with that. That's totally fine. And people are unnecessarily afraid of eggs because they think it's too high in cholesterol. It's not true at all. It's a myth. People can eat eggs all day, every day for 30 days, and it increases both the good cholesterol, but then the LDL, which doesn't really matter. So I think eggs are honestly like nature's perfect food. They're cheap, they're easy to make. So they're probably the best cooked breakfast that you can get. So that's what I would highly recommend. If there's days where you're busy or you're whatever, you're not motivated, whatever's going on, we always need a backup plan, right? Because I can't ask you to like, you're not eating breakfast now, go cook breakfast 7 days a week. Um, what I would recommend is like a Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is great. Yeah, it's high in protein. There's obviously low fat or fattier varieties. The fattier varieties taste better, but either of those are fine. But a good Greek yogurt, you can obviously throw some berries on there if you just want to improve the taste. But that doesn't require any cooking. And just having, like a cup, 2 cups of Greek yogurt, making sure you're getting target like 20 to 30 grams of protein for your breakfast, whether that's in the form of Greek yogurt or in the form of eggs. Eggs have about 6 grams of protein per egg, right? So if you just do the math, 3 eggs would be 18 grams of protein, four eggs would be 24 grams of protein, especially for a guy that's bigger, that's your size. I would say like 4 eggs is a solid amount. Do you feel like that would fill you up?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So yeah,
And
4 eggs.
or it's good enough for breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, for breakfast for sure. Now
And
you here's the other tip that goes with that. It's okay to have a cup of coffee, cup of tea, with that for breakfast. I generally recommend it during breakfast time. If you start having it in the late afternoon, it really messes with your sleep. And so I think, one cup of coffee early in the day, it's not the worst thing in the world. Now, if you find that it's messing with your sleep or it's making you anxious, some people are really sensitive. Like I'm really sensitive to caffeine. So it like just makes me all nervous and it throws me off. Other people can, have a cup of coffee and go to sleep just fine. But I generally think if you're having it in the morning, it's fine. But the more important rule is you don't want to drink your calories. Tea and coffee, when it doesn't have any like sugar or milk added to it, actually doesn't have any calories. The problem with things like orange juice and other things is they obviously have calories, and you don't want to drink them because it hits you too fast. It just goes in right into your bloodstream, spikes your blood sugar levels. So just drink water. Water is the best possible beverage. You want to be drinking water for most of your meals, or like I said, a light coffee or tea is okay as well. How does that sound?
That's perfect. I think now that you bring it up, I think drinking my calories might be what's hurting me. So I might go somewhere. I don't drink. I used to make espresso
Yeah.
at the house with the espresso machine. Uh, but you know, I start. I just started grabbing things from outside. Like I'll go to Starbucks or small coffee shops
Yeah.
and just get like a macchiato, cappuccino, or something.
See, that's
And
the
I
that's
think
the thing.
like
That's a really good point. Like if you're having plain black coffee, that's a non-caloric beverage. But Starbucks, I like to joke, is in the business of selling milkshakes and pretending it's coffee, right? Like they make
yeah,
delicious fucking coffee, but it's not coffee. It's like milk, it's cream, it's sugar. It is a bomb that's just like promoting diabetes everywhere. So, I mean, God bless them for making shit that tastes good, but it's not good for your waistline, is the way that I put it. So yeah,
yeah,
that you got to cut out for sure. Just because it's like I said, if you go there and you get they do sell tea, they do sell herbal stuff. You can obviously get a plain black coffee. So sure, if you're like really jonesing for a little bit of caffeine, fine, get it plain. Um, a little bit of cream, if it's like real cream, is fine. Cream doesn't actually have much sugar in it. Like 1 tablespoon of cream has maybe 1 gram of carbs, so it's totally fine. But a bunch of milk, a bunch of oat milk, a bunch of sugar, whipped cream, none of that stuff. Anything that's pre-mixed, like a macchiato, caramel, blah blah blah. Like, don't get any of that stuff. Like I said, uh, uh, plain coffee, plain tea, a little bit of cream is okay, and like a natural sweetener if you want to sweeten it, like a stevia, a monk fruit. I think Starbucks does carry that now. That would be okay. But yeah, for now, don't drink your calories is the easiest rule of thumb to follow.
okay,
What do you typically have for lunch now?
that's hard because anything that just comes to mind.
Okay.
Sometimes they my lunches are healthier than other days, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're not. They can just be grabbing something from outside. Like I don't eat much fast food, but I'll go in a restaurant and eat something.
Okay. And what do you like? What's it when you're eating a healthy lunch? What does that look like?
So I'll be honest. I eat a lot of carbs, so
Yeah.
I eat a lot of pasta and rice.
And with what?
Oh, maybe some kind of protein like chicken.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You don't have to go keto. I don't think you need to eliminate carbs, but I think you want to keep them to like no more than 20% of your calories, right? So if you were having like chicken and rice, right? Like pretty simple, pretty healthy, I think that would be okay. The only thing I would suggest is when you go to eat out at restaurants, tell them to cook it in butter. The problem is most restaurants cook it in these terrible refined seed oils, soybean oil, canola oil, peanut oil. They're dirt cheap, they're highly inflammatory, and they're terrible for you. So, if you're going and spending the money, make like tell them, man, I'm allergic to whatever oils you use, like butter only. Cook it in butter. That's gonna like transform your inflammation. So that's okay. I'm not saying you can't have rice or pasta, but just don't have it be the bulk of what you're having. Like a cup of rice is totally fine, right? And if you're having that with, let's say, some chicken breast, some beef, as long as it's like cooked, like I said, not in oils and butter, that's fine. But if you're having like pasta that has a bunch of sauce, it's the combinations of carbs and fat that's really fattening, right? Because if you think about it in nature, there's very little foods that have carbs and fat together. There's only, in fact, two categories of foods I can think of. There's milk, which makes babies fat, and there's nuts, which makes squirrels fat. So obviously, you don't want to become fat from eating carbs and fat together. So if you're gonna have pasta, don't drench it in an oily sauce. Like unfortunately, pasta sauce or carbonara sauce, vodka sauce, they're all fatty sauces. That's why they're delicious. So if you just sprinkle tomatoes, not all with olive oil or Parmesan cheese, then you can have your carbs. But like I said, have your carbs by themselves. Don't mix it with fat. That's the goal. Um, Try to eat it with like a leaner protein, like a chicken, fish, shrimp. I think those are all good choices when you're eating noodles, pasta, or rice.
Okay, okay.
And then if you are having fat, like say you're having a delicious like ribeye, steak, fatty meat, that's fine too. But those meals, when you know you're having fat, try to cut the carbs. So like a steak with green beans, steak with asparagus, steak with broccoli, steak with whatever vegetables you like, if you like any of them, those would be good together. Like I said, if you're gonna have it with carbs, try to eat a leaner, like a New York strips, like kind of steak, a chicken, a fish, a shrimp. So it's not that you can't have carbs, it's not that you can't have fat, but try not to mix those. So you can have them for different meals. So let's take an example, just like we talked about. For lunch, you can have a cup of rice with some chicken. That's great. For dinner, you're like, all right, I want that delicious steak. That's fine. Have it with the vegetables that time around. And so you're having your carbs for lunch, you're having your fat for dinner, but you're not mixing the two. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like I said, and you don't have to never eat out. It's like I'm realistic in that not everyone's gonna cook 100% of the time. I feel you, but try to be really picky when you go out and just be like, all right, I'm not eating at Cheesecake Factory because Cheesecake Factory is gonna give me that pasta with the marinara sauce. That's 1,000 calories, right? You got to be kind of picky and like do stuff a la carte. So I'll give you an example of something a la carte that I'm a big fan of. McDonald's, believe it or not, you can actually eat healthy at. What you do is you have to go to the a la carte menu. You can actually order quarter pound patties, just the patties by themselves. They actually don't cook it in any oils. It's cooked in its own fat. It's just beef, salt, pepper. There's nothing added to it. But you got to go to the cashier and say, "Look, I want quarter pound patties, just the patties from the a la carte menu." They're $1.50 each for a quarter pound. You can get obviously four of them or a pound for $6.50, $6.51 in California. So that's a great like on the go, and you can just eat them by themselves. It's just beef, and it's delicious because it has a salt and pepper already in there. It doesn't really need anything else. It'll fill you up, and like I said, for $6.51, it's the best thing on the go, and it's balanced amount of protein and fat. I wouldn't have carbs with that. Obviously, don't drink soda with that. That's gonna go straight to your gut. But if you're just having beef by itself, totally fine. You can also same thing. McDonald's for breakfast, you can actually order like eggs, just plain eggs off of like you just talk to the cashier. Like some of this may be on the a la carte menu, may not be on the breakfast menu because they're going to promote their egg McMuffins or whatever nonsense they sell. But you can literally order individual items like just plain eggs, plain patties, etc. So you might have to go to a restaurant or grocery stores are also a really good option. You can get like pre-cooked chicken breasts, like already done. They sell pre-made salads that are already done. Really simple things of rice, etc. So you can kind of like piecemeal this all together. But yeah, some restaurants are not going to like Popeye's Chicken's probably not going to be the best place.
Okay. Yeah. I do that now, kind of, sort of like so I can go to the grocery store and get like pre-bagged salads, um,
Yeah,
or
and,
like
and
pre-cooked things.
exactly.
So just a few, you know. Sometimes it's okay. I really don't like pre-cooked things, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's always better to cook your own stuff, but like I said, I always think it's important to have a backup plan because there's gonna be days you're working hard. I feel you, like you're tired. You're not, it's not optimal. So I really believe in this concept. I call it backup foods, which is like great. If you can cook dinner every night, awesome. You're better than most Americans. But in that one day, it's late, you're tired, you're hungry, whatever's going on. It's like, all right, I got my emergency food basically. So I know where I can go to McDonald's and get exactly what I want off the menu. I can go to the grocery store, I have it, or maybe in my fridge or my freezer, I got like some Trader Joe's meal that's like I can make in 5 minutes. I don't even have to think about it too much. So always have those backup options, at your disposal, so you don't have to rely on willpower.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. I think that's. I don't want to overwhelm you with like too many suggestions, but I would say like I really believe in like starting with one thing at a time, and I think for you the biggest bang for your buck in terms of all the things that you mentioned, energy, libido, all of this is probably related to inflammation and kind of your weight, which obviously really goes down to diet, right? So I think the best thing you can do is, like I said, just introduce regularity and rhythm into your. Try to eat 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and try to eat them at the same time. You don't have to be perfect. I'm not saying be OCPD about it, but pick some times that work for you, like 9, 12, 6, whatever it is, and try to eat around the same time. It'll just put you on a more normal schedule and have reliable kind of stuff. Like I said, it's okay to eat the same stuff for breakfast every day, or alternate. Like I said, eggs one day, yogurt the other day. That's fine too. Most people don't really need more than 5 different meals. Most families can't even cook more than 5 different meals. In fact, as long as you rotate them, it doesn't feel like you get bored. But they're safe in that they're like, okay, these are like pre-approved. I know they're healthy for me, and I think that's going to be a great start for you. The last suggestion that I have is, do you have a weight scale at home?
I do.
Awesome. How often do you step on it?
Like from time to time,
All
just
right.
to see
Here's my
what I'm at.
suggestion. Do you brush your teeth every morning?
Of course.
After you brush your teeth, you link that habit together. Step on your scale. So you associate those two together. You always brush your teeth. You know you do. So you're going to step on the scale at the same time. And that way you never forget. That's going to become your daily habit. And it's really important. There's studies, in fact, that show that people who weigh in daily lose more weight than people who even weigh in weekly. And the reason for that is, even though your weight's going to go up and down every day because of water weight, you had more salt, the day-to-day number is less important than the trend, right? So ideally, if you have a digital scale, I'm a big fan of digital scales that connect to your iPhone and upload the data into the health app. If you do, and if not, I can suggest one. They're like $20 on Amazon. They're so cheap. You can download an app called Happy Scale. Spelled exactly like it sounds. And what the great thing about Happy Scale is, it looks at the trends. So even though your weight might go up 1 pound, down 2 pounds the next day, it'll tell you like, okay, it'll smooth the line. It'll tell you, if you keep doing what you're doing now, you're gonna lose 5 pounds in the next 2 weeks, or 10 pounds in the next month. So I think it's actually like really motivating, because it's like, look, keep up the good work. You're gonna be at 210 pounds, your dream, 200 to 210 pounds, your goal weight, in this amount of time. So I find it to be really helpful and really motivating, to do that. And also, it's psychologically, it kind of reminds you when you step on the scale every day, man, I'm part of this Maximus program. I'm making an effort to like get back to where I was 2 years ago, like you said. And when I felt good, I had more muscle, I was kind of on it, right? And it just, that 5 second act of stepping on that scale every day is your like check-in and your accountability to yourself, to be like, look, I'm on it. And even if I had a bad day yesterday, it doesn't matter. I'm getting on the scale. I'm starting over again today.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I think I'll be able to take it more serious like that. It's just I know I can do it. I can get serious about it. I just need to pay more attention to it.
For sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then if you need some accountability, the coaching channel on our Discord, have you joined that?
No, I have.
Check out our it's maximistribe.com/discord. You can use it on your web browser. You can download the app. But we have a little coaching channel. It's hashtag coaching. And people use it for accountability. So just like I was saying, check in every day, eat 3 meals a day at the same time. What you can do is you can use the social accountability. So now that we've kind of come up with that plan, well, how do I know you're going to do it, or how do I keep you on track? Is use the coaching channel. And what a lot of guys do is they check in every day and they're like, I stepped on my scale this morning. I had my 3 meals. Try not to mix my carbs and fat. Didn't drink any calories. Those are your 4 goals, let's say. And all you did is all you say is yes, 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 yes. I'm on track for today. Or maybe 2 yeses and 2 nos, and you're like, I was good, but I don't know. I had a fucking orange juice and threw me off. What am I going to do differently next time? And then we help support you, problem solve around that.
Okay, okay. And there's just a subscription cost like $200 a month.
Yep, and it's in the coaching is part of that. So obviously we provide the prescription pharmaceuticals, but I also think like this whole everything that we're doing here is part of that as well.
Okay, so that continues every month.
Yep.
All right, all right.
All right. I think we got a good start. I think these are really great questions, and I think you got a lot of potential to improve. So hopefully, we can talk more. But like I said, let's just start simple. Let's just clean up your diet, and I think that would be a great place that you can start feeling better. And yeah, if you want to sign up for the protocol, I don't know if you have already, but that would obviously be really helpful as well.
Yeah, I can do. I'm actually serious about this, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good, man. Wishing you the best. Keep in touch. Like I said, join the Discord channel, as part of your subscription, and we can help you there.
All right, all right. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we got a question from YouTube. Not sure exactly what they're looking for, but is there any way to reduce sex drive without negative health effects? Any reason a guy would want to reduce his sex drive?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a good problem to have, I would say, in terms of if you have too much of a libido. It's most guys are complaining about the opposite. Um, Look, it's always a matter of extremes. There are some people who have a little bit of like a hypersexuality, and maybe like too crazy of a libido. So first thing is like, let's just make sure you're not using anything or doing anything that's causing an unnatural amount of libido. There are some folks that are on some drugs that increase dopamine. So if you're taking Adderall or other dopaminergic drugs, in some folks they can like overstimulate the libido. So just as like an exclusion, I would just like make sure that you're not taking anything that it's increasing dopamine. If it is, then well, it's probably the cause of that. And you want to lay off. It doesn't happen, like I said, in most people, but some people are really sensitive to the dopaminergic drugs. So you just want to be a little bit mindful about that. If that's not the case, and you just have naturally high libido, I would argue, well, what's the problem? The problem is not usually the libido itself. It's that what it does to you or what it compels you to do. Now, sometimes if you obviously have a very high libido, you may engage in excessive masturbation. That's actually the problem that some people have. Or you may engage in like excessive pornography use, etc. So really, I think it's about channeling your libido in a positive, productive way. If you obviously have a romantic, intimate partner, then I think it's great to be able to have sex on a regular basis and make sure that's obviously like balances out in your relationship in terms of frequency. So as long as you have a positive channel for it and you're not engaging in compulsive, sexual behavior, the better thing to do is just make sure that you're obviously engaging in healthy sexual activity, and then channel the rest of it productively into your work, into sports, into other things. You don't necessarily need to act on it beyond, obviously, like let's say having sex once a day with your partner seems pretty reasonable for most people, maybe up to twice a day. Beyond that is probably getting into a little bit of the excessive range. But the rest of it you should try to channel into doing great things. And I think libido is actually a superpower. And great men have built great empires by channeling their libidinal urges, if you kind of believe in psychoanalytic theory, into sublimated creative work. So make great art, do great work, channel that into positive ways above and beyond just release. And so I don't think libido is the problem. It's what you do with it that counts. And so you obviously have to learn to control it a little bit in the way of not giving into it in a impulsive way, which is like just because you're horny, you obviously need to let it out, or in a compulsive way where you need to do it multiple times a day. So like I said, find healthy outlets, whether it's like masturbating or being with your partner 1 to 2 times a day. Probably no more than that. Watch excessive pornography use and channel it into being the best person that you can. I don't think you need to decrease your libido. I think you just need to learn to control it or channel it. All right, it looks like we got our next caller. Hey there. I think we're connecting to audio right now, but thank you very much for your patience. I know we had an extended conversation right before you, but thanks for joining us. Can you hear me?
Dr. Khan, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I just had to mute the YouTube video. Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
How are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be part of the Maximus King Protocol program now. So.
Thank you. We're super happy to have you.
Yeah. Basically, Dr. Cam, I mean, I've been really into this TRT research, and I was really going to pull the trigger. I don't know if you've read my post on the Discord. I was really going to pull the trigger on just, I'm going to commit a lifetime TRT just because I feel like this is exactly what I need, right? Testosterone, because I get all the symptoms, definitely fatigue, definitely, basically with that interview with Dave Asprey, I mean, I like what he said. It's about the drive, the willpower.
Right.
Testosterone is kind of like the chemical for the drive. So I would like to have the physical benefits of the protocol, but for me, it's really just mostly. For me, it's gonna be mostly cognition because I feel like I have something in me. I just couldn't. I don't know. It's just something stopping me. To be honest with you, I feel like a lazy POS. That's how I would describe myself. I hate to admit it, but I can say it now just because I feel like it's a chemical imbalance.
Right.
So
it's a great point in terms of the motivation and drive, and I think it's a big reason a lot of people obviously want more testosterone. Now, motivation is a tricky thing. It is not. I wouldn't say it's just a chemical imbalance. There is psychological factors, but here's the beautiful thing about it, and which I really enjoy as a psychologist, is there's a positive interplay between the two. Right? Testosterone increases your energy levels and your motivation and drive. As I like to say, it's the hormone that makes hard work enjoyable, right?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But once you start doing those things, it's like, okay, great. I have more motivation, energy, drive. Now I'm going to the gym. And obviously, as you're going to the gym, you're feeling better. Obviously, you get huge mood benefits of going for the gym. You're being more fit. You're in better shape. And then when you do that, obviously, your testosterone goes up some more. So it has this kind of positive flywheel or positive effect on motivation. And it gives you, I think, almost the initial motivation to start changing your life. And once you start changing your life, then you get even more motivation. So that's the way that I would think about it.
Right. Because, I feel like it's exactly what it is. My energy level is just so low now. And I thought it was just age, I told myself I turned 40. Whoa,
Right.
It started, I felt like, it's just an age thing. But then I realized there's also the testosterone issue that, can actually address that. Because to be honest, I would, been binge watching in a lot of videos. And basically I would see 40, people even older than me who are, going after it. And I definitely want that, yes, like the exercise, I feel like, it's part of the energy too.
Right.
I am actually a stay-at-home dad, and I have a lot of kids running around.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's natural exercise, I think, chasing little kids. So I feel you there. And you really bring up a great point. A lot of guys, when they start turning 40, it's a combination of things. One interesting thing, by the way, is apparently when you become a father, your testosterone naturally declines a little bit. And there's an interesting theory that's like maybe they, nature does that to men so that they don't run away, basically, from their families. Try to find a new partner. So I don't know. Some of it's a little bit natural, but Here's the interesting thing that I observed. I actually talked to a sports scientist who was involved in the testing program for the former USSR before it became Russia. And so they had the testosterone levels of all these like Soviet, ex-Soviet Olympic athletes, and followed them actually over time. And here's the interesting thing: those guys, if they stayed healthy, and even into their 50s and 60s, maintain the same testosterone levels as when they were like Olympic athletes in their 20s. So it's not inevitable that your testosterone goes down just because you get older. For the average
Right.
American, it does go down, especially after 40, but it's often because of lifestyle, meaning average American puts on about a pound per year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously if you do the math from age 40 to 60, now you put on 20 pounds, it makes a big difference. Your testosterone is going down. Your sleep is probably going down if you're running around chasing a bunch of kids. All those other things
Uh-huh.
are lifestyle factors. Now, some of them it's a little hard to avoid when you got young kids. Obviously, the weight is a little bit more controllable if you can manage all that. So the good news is the TLDR is low. The age related decline in testosterone post 40 is not inevitable, and if you do stuff obviously like our protocol, but also take care of the lifestyle as part of that, you
Right.
can really maintain actually normal to high testosterone levels in your 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Right. And I'll be very honest, Dr. Cam. I mean, I'm really hoping, for the protocol to give me that boost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know what you said, the motivation is kind of tricky, but just to give me a little something, kind of like help me to keep pushing. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
have this thing in life. It's just that it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I'll be honest about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes sense. Have you signed up yet?
Yeah. I got the testing today. The unfortunate thing, I used my I used my wife's facial lotion,
Uh-huh.
and it has an anti wrinkle, and the testing says wait 3 days. So it's annoying that I cannot do anything right now. I'm
Oh, okay.
sitting there, I'm staring at it, but yeah.
Yeah, the reason for that that's funny you mentioned that. Some of the anti wrinkle creams for like they're not supposed to actually. They
Uh,
sometimes sneak hormones in there, and so basically, if it's contaminated, there's a risk essentially that it'll throw off your levels. I mean, I would say it's a small probability. So if you really want to, you can probably just test tomorrow morning.
hey,
It'll be
if you give
fine.
me your blessing, I'll.
Yeah, I mean, like I
All
said,
right.
the lab says that, and they're right to say that because, like I said, unfortunately, some cosmetics and supplements are contaminated. There's really not a lot
That
of
makes me feel
regulation in
better.
that industry.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like I'm more concerned if like the guys who are XTRT users, their labs
Gotcha.
get thrown off, and I'm like, I always tell them like, don't use it for 2 weeks because obviously you're messing with your testosterone and you're doing something else. So if you're taking any medications, I would say that are clearly influencing your hormones, that you need to have out of your system for at least a week or two.
Gotcha.
Creams, I wouldn't stress too much about it. Just tomorrow morning when you wake up, first thing in the morning, just take the test, send it in, and then you can actually start as soon as you're done taking the test and start taking
Right.
the medications and supplements.
Right. The good thing is, the supplements and medications are not here yet, so
Okay.
yeah, it's not killing me right now. Is it okay if I ask another
Yeah,
question?
ask as much as you want.
Oh, okay, perfect. Kind of like adding to the insult, Doctor Cam. I was actually diagnosed with a mild sleep apnea
Mm-hmm.
early this year.
Yep.
So, I thought like, oh, that's the cause of my fatigue and everything.
Yeah.
And I started using a CPAP,
Great.
um, sleeping. I'm still getting used to it. I think I'm only on month, just a little over a month.
Okay.
But
Have you
yeah, I mean,
noticed a
what are you?
difference?
Actually, yes, actually, I do. If it stays on, because
Yeah, that's the tough
I'm
part.
still trying to get used to it. But if it stays on, when it stays on, I mean, I would feel a little more awake, like awake longer. Back
Right.
then, I would wake up and my gosh, no matter how much sleep I get, I would be sleepy no matter what. So, is it something that like I said, I'm all about the energy right now. Is it something the King Protocol will be able to help me out with, even just a little bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's really great that you got a sleep study done, got diagnosed properly with sleep apnea, and now you're treating it with CPAP. Like most guys aren't even aware of the problem, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it
I
because
wasn't. Yeah.
yeah, and most people, it's unfortunate. We just have a healthcare system that doesn't check on these things, and it's also deceiving too in that obviously there's an association with your weight and sleep apnea, but sometimes even skinny guys can have sleep apnea. It just depends. I think the main thing that people should be aware of, obviously, if they're snoring, if their partner notices that they stop breathing, obviously in the middle of the night, or yeah, they're just quite chronically fatigued, and there shouldn't be, and there isn't a good reason for it. Like they seem to be in bed enough, or other things. Getting that taken care of is going to make a huge difference. So yeah, obviously you just got to kind of work out the annoyance factor is what I call it. Like anytime people have devices, it just getting used to. Like I use an oral appliance. It's not quite CPAP, but the mouthpiece is like kind of the same. It's an annoying
Yeah.
thing that you put in your mouth. And yeah, it bothered me like the first like I don't know probably a few months, because it's like this weird thing in your mouth. Now I'm used to it, and you just kind of get used to it over time. And the more that you do, the more your sleep returns to normal, and obviously the better your compliance, the better your energy levels. So that's fantastic that you're doing that. It's going to be the foundation, obviously, to making sure like look, you got to breathe, right? If you're not breathing
Right.
while you're sleeping, your energy is not going to be good because otherwise your body will force itself to wake up multiple times a night, which is what apneas are, and obviously interfere with your ability to get normal, especially deep restorative sleep. What enclomiphene will do on top of that, in addition to obviously kind of testosterone building blocks vitamins that we use, is make sure that you have the substrates or kind of the foundations for energy. So we use all these kind of fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, K, and GG, which are critical for producing your own testosterone. So most guys, for instance, actually are very deficient in vitamin D. Like where do you live in terms of like your city or general area?
I live in Sacramento area.
Yeah, so Sacramento, like anything that's north of San Francisco, Washington D.C., or Athens, you're almost by definition vitamin D deficient because you're
Really?
too
Wow.
yeah you're too
Okay.
high in terms of the northern latitude, and also right now it's like March. It's
Interesting.
not even it's still winter technically speaking. I've actually looked at like vitamin D levels. You can download an app. It's called D Minder. It'll tell you how much
Uh,
vitamin D you produce by being out in the sun, and it knows where you are. Like in Sacramento, it uses your GPS. San Francisco, December, you get zero vitamin D. Even if you're out at noontime, bright sunlight, you just don't produce enough vitamin D. Obviously,
no
closer to the
way. Okay.
summertime, you can produce more, but just most people aren't outside enough. I live in LA, I spend a lot of time outside, and even then, I was vitamin D deficient just because I work in an office most of the time. So,
Right.
taking care of that will help, and a lot of people's energy actually improves if they are vitamin D deficient, just from being on our supplement. So that will help. And then in clomiphene, obviously, by increasing your testosterone above and beyond that, we generally recommend people take it in the morning. Um, it's easy to obviously just take both together so you don't forget. And the main thing that people really report is obviously number one, higher energy levels. But the way they experience that is that kind of afternoon slump, the needing to take a nap in the afternoon at 2 3 o'clock.
Right.
That
Right.
that tends to go away over time. Now, obviously, like sure, if you want to take a 20-minute like quick one, it's not going to hurt, but
Right.
at least it becomes a nice to have rather than a need to have.
Sure.
So
Sure.
try it out. Obviously, give us feedback on if that's helping you out. But you should be able to even within a week notice a difference in terms of your energy levels, and your testosterone levels will peak in about 4 weeks. Based on the research studies.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's funny when you mentioned about the sleep apnea thing, with our healthcare system. I mean, I'm 179
Yep.
pounds, 5'9", and in theory, I'm not really someone who should be looking into sleep apnea, right? I
Right.
mean, that's what people say. But the person who told me that I might have sleep apnea was my dental hygienist,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? Because she mentioned that I have specific ridges that's on my tongue that's specific to sleep apnea, and I
Yeah.
was shocked because it kind of like started this this I guess personal research about myself, like what stuff that I have, so you know I'm fatigued all the time. Sure, I have sleep apnea, but at the same time, the testosterone issue is there as well. And I just also want to share that I got blood work from that company, Let's Get Checked.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard of that. And
Yep.
then my testosterone levels are 301. Um, my SHBG
Yep.
is
SHBG.
16.9.
What was it?
16.9, I believe. 16.9.
16.9. Okay.
Yeah, and then free test is like 9.5. And been listening to a lot of your podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
your YouTube videos. I thought like having a low SHBG will give me the testosterone boost, um, but I don't have that, so I'm kind of confused about
Yeah,
where I'm at right
it's a
now with
great
my
question.
levels. But
So low SHBG is good in the sense that it frees up more of your total testosterone and turns it more into free testosterone, right? Um, so, um, but on the other hand, it also puts you at higher risk for insulin resistance and diabetes. So you can't
I
really.
want to interject. Sorry, Doctor
Good.
Ken. I heard you say this in the video yesterday that about pre-diabetic, and my family has a history of diabetes, so I'm actually pre-diabetic
Yeah.
right now. So okay, sorry about that. I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
let you know
No,
that
so I
I
mean,
heard it from you. Yeah.
you could basically guess from your SHBG levels that's the case.
Uh-huh.
So what that means is you got to be more careful than most people when it comes to your carbohydrate intake and obviously your diet. There's some folks who can get away with it, quite frankly, in terms of
Right.
like I always say I call it individual carbohydrate tolerance, which is just a fancy word for some people can eat more carbs, some people can't because of their
Right,
genetics.
right.
And if you're low SHBG, you just got to be like it doesn't mean you can't have them. You just got to be a little bit more careful. And the basic rule of thumb is like as long as you're maintaining your optimal body weight, have as much carbs as you can. But you got to kind of get to there. So at your height, you could probably obviously lose still, 10 to 20 pounds, I would say, depending on how much muscle mass you have.
And that's another thing too. It's kind of frustrating for me to go to the gym because I would push, but then I could never grow muscle. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So,
at 300 total tests or like a free T of 9, we use a different scale. Our testing is actually more accurate than Let's Get Checked because we use gold standard testing methodology
Awesome.
called LCMS. So when you do your test, I'm happy to go over the results with you, and obviously your doctor will as well. But yeah, it should obviously significantly improve that, and then your ability to put on muscle will be better as well. There was a study that showed that about people can gain up to 5 pounds in about 12 months, although that was on a higher dosage than we start most people on. But
Right.
it should definitely help, especially if you're more in the deficient range, which you're pretty much there. So
Right.
it should make more of a difference actually for you than other folks, and I think you'll actually notice a difference.
Nice. I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Are there any other outstanding questions before you start?
So you mentioned take it in the morning. The the meds take it in the morning. This is both the meds and the.
Yeah, I
That's right.
generally recommend just take it all together because it's easier to remember. The thing with the vitamins like vitamin D, you should take it with a little bit of fat because it helps absorption.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you don't eat breakfast, we had someone ask this question. They're like, I don't eat breakfast, but I eat lunch. Can I just take it at lunch? I was like, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I do encourage people to eat breakfast.
Sure.
So if you do eat breakfast or just have a little bit of fat, a little bit of yogurt, whatever it is that you're consuming, it'll help absorption. So I always just tell people, like consistency is king. You want to just take it every single, whether it's morning or lunch. But obviously, if you take
Gotcha.
it in the day and if you want to feel the energy levels, take it, when you kickstart your day, because then the half life's about 10 hours for enclomiphene, so you'll feel it over the course of that period of time.
Okay. MCT oil, okay? Kind of like mix
Totally.
MCT oil with. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Good.
a great fat. Well, awesome,
right.
great having you. Good luck, obviously, doing your lab test and getting started. Your meds will come in soon. Join me on the coaching channel on Discord, as I mentioned to the last guy as well, maximustribe.com/Discord. I think you're already on there, in fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, take advantage of the coaching channel, and obviously, if there's things that you want to improve on diet, exercise, sleep, focus, I'm happy to work with you and the rest of the guys to make you just absolutely optimal.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Super excited.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dr.
very
Ken.
much. Yeah, and feel free. We obviously have this show every Thursday at 6 to 7. So feel free to follow up anytime you want.
Yeah. I appreciate what you're doing, Dr. Pan. Thank you.
Much appreciated as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for a great radio show that we've had this week, our 60th episode. So it's always great to hear from prospective clients, current clients, and help people just look, feel, and perform their best. That's why we're doing what we're doing at Maximus. So if you're out there listening, check us out at maximistribe.com. We're live in 13 states. And if we're not in your state, we hopefully will be soon. We're launching in 5 to 6 more states next. So just make sure you're on our email list, and we'll let you know when we are live where you are. All right, take care. Have a wonderful Thursday, everyone, and be happy, be healthy, and I'll catch you next week.
You are my sunlight.